What's up guys, Jackal here with another Breaking the Build. This time it's my Peaceful Paris Protester build. This is a Magma Orb Pledge of Hands Witch. It's an Elementalist, and the entire build is just based around what can you do with Pledge of Hands. I really wanted to use this item, and I wanted to see which direction I could push it and how far I could push it. So, currently I am level 82. And I have done Merciless Lab, but not Uber Lab yet. I'll probably do that today or tomorrow. As far as what skill I'm using in the Pledge of Hands, mine is 5-link. I bought a 5-link Pledge of Hands. I believe it was around 1 Exalt. But you can start the build with just a 4-link. It'll be fine. The staff itself gives you level 30 spell Echo. So that means that this is now a 6-link build. As far as the skill I'm using, it's Magma Orb. I love Magma Orb. I have the acid Magma Orb effect on it to make it look like you're throwing Molotov cocktails, hence the name of the build. And I have attached to it Controlled Destruction. I have increased area of effect, faster casting, and fire penetration to go along with, of course, the spell Echo that the staff itself gives you. Now the staff also gives you this great mana and great spell damage, so I was thinking with that mana it's probably a good idea to use the Mind over Matter defensive mechanic, because if you can get away with it, then it's one of the most powerful defensive mechanics in the game. As for the rest of my gear, I am pretty much rocking just rares with as high life as I could get, as well as focusing on, obviously, resistance capping, but also focusing on as much chaos resistance as I can get. Currently in Merciless I have positive 14 chaos resistance, with everything else being elemental equilibrium, elemental weakness capped. So let's talk about the Ascendancy Tree. As I mentioned, I am an Elementalist. The first thing I picked up was Liege of the Primordial. The golems really helped me through the leveling process. This will increase your damage and or defenses depending on which golems you choose. I chose to have a Chaos Golem to mitigate some physical damage, and a Fire Golem to give me overall more increased fire damage. Then I picked up Pendulum of Destruction. This switches between giving you 100% increased elemental damage or 25% increased area of effect. Both of those things are quite nice for Magma Orbs, so this is just overall a nice clear speed buff. Then, to reduce that pesky reflected elemental damage, I picked up a Paragon of Calamity. 50% reduced reflected elemental damage taken is very nice. It's not enough to let you run Elemental Reflect maps with this build, but it is enough to let you not worry too much about Elemental Reflect mobs. Now if we look at the rest of the tree, there are two major components to this build, and the rest is very much personal choice or how you want to build it. But the two major components are that since we're using Pledge of Hands, we're going to go Mind over Matter, and since we're using Magma Orb, we are going to use 2 Inevitability Gems. Having 2 of these gems in the proper jewel sockets will allow you to get a free lesser multiple projectiles, basically. You get 2 extra projectiles without any reduced damage. Also, a neat factor of this jewel is that your Magma Orb bounces will also increase area of effect slightly as they chain. As far as which sockets these jewels can go into for 40 int in the radius, I believe any socket on the northern hemisphere of the skill tree that is not on the outside. So any inside jewel socket on the northern hemisphere of the tree will have enough int within its radius. Now, because we are a Mind over Matter build, that means we are going to be either Pure Life or Life Energy Shield hybrid. I chose to go Pure Life so that I could use my Energy Shield in Eldritch Battery. I basically then use my Energy Shield as mana, and if you're picking up Eldritch Battery, you might as well take Essence Surge, so that if you do run out of in a long fight, if you do run out of that energy shield, you don't have to wait too long before it pops right back up again. I took a little bit of nice energy shield nodes in the Witch, including Arcane Focus and Unnatural Calm. And the rest of the tree, I basically devoted to trying and getting enough life to make the build viable. So I picked up Heart and Soul. I picked up Cruel Preparation. That's about all the life you're going to get out of the Witch tree. So then I went down. Of course, this is a Mind Over Matter build, and right beside Mind Over Matter is Quick Recovery. Since there's no travel nodes to get here, you're already here, you might as well take those 3 very efficient points. And then down into Discipline and Training and Sanctity inside the Templar tree. And because you take Sanctity, you may as well go over to Righteous Decree, because you're running a 6 link and your spell is very expensive. Then I went down to the Scion Life Wheel. If you're a build you think you're going to struggle with life, it's best to try and find a way to get down to the Scion Life Wheel and then take whatever's efficient in between. Because you're going down here and you can take Dynamo with no travel points, I also took that. So I have quite a bit of reduced mana cost out of the tree with no travel points to get there. As far as damage, the only damage I take out of the tree is Occultist's Dominion, and that's because I was going to take Practical Application anyway, so this notable passive is very powerful. And the most powerful 1 point you can spend, or in this case 3 points since I had to travel there, is Elemental Overload. Elemental Overload, when you crit, although you have no crit multiplier, you will get 40% more elemental damage for 8 seconds. So if you can keep it up all the time, that is just a 40% more multiplier all the time. Very efficient damage node if you're not a crit build. And then since I desperately needed both life and chaos resistance, I'm of course picking up Purity of Flesh. And conveniently on the way to Purity of Flesh, there is 1 fire damage wheel. We're a pure fire damage build, so I did pick up Explosive Impact. As for defensive mechanics, I already mentioned that I'm using Mind Over Matter. With Mind Over Matter, I have unreserved about 1400 mana, and for Eldritch Battery I have about 1770 energy shield. The other defensive mechanics I'm using are a Herald of Thunder with increased critical strike support. That's to give the strikes of the Herald of Thunder a little bit of crit, which it doesn't naturally have, and that will help to keep the elemental overload up for more consistent damage. But it's also linked with Mana Leech and Life Leech. Mana counts as pseudo-life for you with Mind Over Matter, so Mana Leech and Life Leech are good defensive mechanics. It doesn't do that much damage, so the Leech isn't that impressive, but it also doesn't take up that much mana. I'm also using Arctic Armor, and I'm using a cast on damage taken with both my golems and Enfeeble. Enfeeble's probably the best standalone defensive curse you can use. As for other spells I'm using a spell totem for single target with Scorching Ray that's also supported by faster casting and controlled destruction. This Scorching Ray doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's nice supplemental for single target, and it reduces the fire resistance of your target by a little bit as well. As far as ups and downs for the build, I think this build has 2 major upsides, and that is 1, that your damage output is very high for the low cost investment into the build. As I said previously, I only have 1 unique item, and although it did cost me around 1x, as I said, the rest of the items are just rares that cost me around 1 to 5 chaos. And for that, I have about 37,000 sheet DPS and of course I'm doing a little bit more than that through penetration, through burning, which will get better with elemental conflux once I pick that up, and so on and so forth. The other, I think, high end of this build is just how fun it is. I'm very surprised that with these 2 threshold jewels, Magma Orb turns into an incredibly fun skill. You fill the entire screen with green fire, and it feels very smooth once you get enough cast speed. This skill feels very smooth and very controllable. You have to get used to how it bounces, but that doesn't take too long, and other than that, it's a very fun skill to use. I think maybe my most fun build this league. As far as downsides, the Magma Orb can be a little bit finicky. It can, if you try to shoot it down or upstairs, it can get caught on the stairs, and that will be very annoying, or of course it can get caught on particles or blockages on the ground. Other downsides are just that being a witch and stretching the passive tree as far as I did, I just don't have enough life to justify being a life build. I really wanted to be Mind Over Matter, and with this staff, Mind Over Matter is very, very powerful with the 100% mana that the staff gives you. But it's hard to get enough life as a witch. You have to really travel around the tree. And as much as I did that, and as much as I got a lot of life on all my items, I still am just sitting at just under 4,700, which is not that great, and probably won't allow you to go up any higher than the high yellow maps or low red maps that I've been running on this build. So low life and Magma Orb, like many other skills, gets caught on stuff and doesn't behave the way you want it to sometimes. I'd say those are the only 2 downsides. Thanks again for watching another Breaking the Build, guys. This has been my Peaceful Paris Protester build. I hope you really enjoyed it. It was more straightforward than some of my builds, but it's very fun to play, so if you want to try it out, just go out there, find some blackguards or some other authority you don't like, throw that flask at them and watch them light up to show them how anti-hatred you are. Thanks again for watching, and if you really enjoyed it, consider liking and subscribing and checking me out at my Twitch channel, which you can find in the description below. I've been playing a lot of PoE lately over there, and I'll be playing a lot of Dota 2 now that the International Compendium's out. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.